to the Each One Teach One podcast. I'm Gary Robinson Jr. and next to me is
Elijah Coates.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We want to thank you guys for listening, and we're going to keep on continuing this thing. And today we have a very, very special guest. Now, the special guest is family to me. Very close family. He's my grandfather. He's my mother's father. And this is going to be a very, very informative and great show we're going to have for you today. And we have my grandfather, Roger Terry.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Good. How you doing?
It's an honor to be here, and thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for coming on Father's Day.
Oh, I tell you, it's a very special Father's Day. Just to have you guys all over for breakfast and brunch, it was very good, especially after COVID. After that, and the family's not being able to get together, so very grateful.
Right, and for the listeners, can you describe yourself? Like, what were some important things you've done in your life, and just give an overview of Roger Terry?
Okay, well, first of all, again, thank you for the opportunity. I want to say that how special it is for me being here with my grandson. You know, I didn't get to meet my father's father. He passed away a year before I was born. And my mother's father passed away when I was about 4 years old. So I never really had that interaction with grandfathers. Right. I actually prayed. I said, I hope in my life that I have opportunity, to have grandsons, and granddaughters to be able to communicate that link from one generation to the other, which is very, very important. Very important. So to be here today with my grandson, that's very special on Father's Day, and happy Father's Day to all of the rest of the fathers out there. My father, he set the table very good for me. He was a tremendous scholar in school, much better than I was. He had very grades. He went to Hampton Institute, which is Hampton University now, and he was the captain of the tennis team and the football team there before he was signed up to go into World War II, and he went to Tuskegee and became a Tuskegee Airman. So he was always a leader, a guy that chose to always be a family-orientated type of guy. I met a lot of young people over the years that haven't had that opportunity to have a father background like that. And I know how difficult that must be, because even with him there, there's some loops and some holes and some mistakes that you always make. But, with that guidance, at least, that strong fatherly guidance was very, very important. The old-timers, it was difficult pulling information out of them. They didn't like to talk about some of the past and some of the history. Some of it very painful, because you figure his father and his father's father was back in slave time. So, a lot of that history that just they didn't talk about at all, unfortunately. I used to try to pull it out of them. Used to get a little angry sometimes, well, you don't need to know, but we do need to know. That's why it's important when you're talking about each one teach one, that you take whatever from my generation and you pass it on to your generation. Right. And you're very blessed. You got a mom and you got a dad. And you have a grandfather on your father's side also. Correct. That you can communicate with and get information. And if young people don't have one, find somebody that you can trust, that you could sit down and talk to, to make sure that you get that history, the right history, and the right link to history. I had opportunity very young to join the Montclair Police Department. And I wasn't kind of really fond of being a police officer back in those days. In the 60s, it was kind of a revolutionary atmosphere where a lot of rights for blacks were starting to come on page, and we wanted to step it up to another level, which made some very difficult times, but some good times also. So my mother, who worked in town hall, she had a link to the police department and suggested that would be a good job, and it's a job with a pension. So I took that and was very fortunate to rise through the ranks and become second in command in the Montclair Police Department. And it's a lot of hard work, a lot of giving up on certain things that you really like to do, to stay focused on, what you need to do. But one of the many good things that came out of it is giving back to your community. All my father's friends and associate fathers, associate mothers, uncles, aunts in the community, you're able to help them out, So many people look at the bad side, that it's always about car stops or locking somebody up, but the real community police officer is there to assist anything that you need in the community. He should be one of your best friends, I know it's in difficult times. I know unfortunately, some officers make it difficult, because of some of their actions, but the majority of law enforcement officers that I know and I worked with are really conscientious types of individuals there.
Nice. And you mentioned being back in the police force way back in the day, and also being a little bit more in the modern generation toward the end of your police career. What would you say is the biggest differences from then to now?
Well, there's two things. That's a great question, because one of my objectives was to make the department more community-minded and more friendly. And somehow or another, we were heading in the right direction at one point, but there was an area, I think, in the 80s and early 90s where the focus was on the war of drugs more than anything else. So what you saw was the police departments becoming more militarized, with the type of vehicles, the type of guns that they had, and it became less like, a community mind. It became more like us against them right now. And you see that all around the country today. And that's very unfortunate, especially for us that worked very, very hard to make it a community-minded police department. I do, in our town, in which you live, there are some conscientious individuals, some individuals that graduated, played football with you. They were athletes. They graduated from college, and they wanted to come back and give to the community. If you can find officers like that, it's always going to be a home run. Unfortunately, the climate around the country is very difficult. A lot of people believe it's them against the police department, so many of the orders, many of the things that they're really responsible for doing, they don't do, and it becomes a confrontation between them and the police. We've seen this over and over again, and I tell you, it's going to be difficult to straighten it out, but we can straighten it out. We just have to work together, keep the lines of communication open, and make it different, make a change, especially in your guy's life, It's very, very important.
I was just about to touch on that, I think we should definitely get working back as far as getting a community base, because you make people feel more safe. You'll feel more confident if you get pulled over. You're what I'm saying? You don't have that much of anxiety. Your heart won't be jumping out your chest.
That's right.
You want just to feel loved and a part of a family when, if you do get pulled over in town or anywhere, you just want to feel safe and not like a target. So my next question is what would you tell somebody how to conduct themselves in a traffic stop if it comes down to that, if they do get pulled over? What are the right things to do and the wrong things to do?
Well, first of all, that's a great question. First of all, everybody makes mistakes, okay? When you drive vehicles and you've driven them for a while, mistakes happen. There are some flagrant violations, that people do. They're either speeding or on purpose or purposely running like a stop sign or red light. It's very flagrant. But some people do them by mistake, and we all have. The laws that are provided in the state of New Jersey and the country, once a police officer pulls you over, you are obligated to show him your license, registration, and insurance card. There is no, what did I do? Can you talk to me about that? Those things you're obligated to give up first. And I know a lot of people aren't going to like that, and I see and continually, on different stops, that people are arguing with the law enforcement officer about why'd you stop me. Well, that should always, you could ask that question down the line.
Right.
But the first three things that you should give up is your information, so they can find out exactly who you are. Okay. Now, most people, there are very, very, very good people, but there's some dangerous people out there, very dangerous people. They don't care about you, me, or anybody else, and wouldn't think of harming you or your family in any way. So after that he receives the information, then he should, if he's a community-minded individual, let you know, like, you see that stop sign back there? You blew the stop sign, And most officers, if you conduct yourself in a manner like, officer, I made a mistake, these things happen, that they will either be passionate towards that, maybe even giving you a break. If you're going to be argumentative, or into a situation where it becomes very contrary, then shoot, anything goes. And God forbid that you get out and you resist arrest, and that's something entirely different. Right. And we see that over and over again. Hopefully that makes sense of what I'm saying.
Definitely makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense.
And also, I'm kind of piggybacking off that a little bit. You mentioned like a police officer being about the community and coming to the driver and saying like, "Hey, you blew that stop sign." How important is it for the police officers to be in and of the community? Like, the police officers live in the community. They went to the high school, they went to the middle school with their kids, also roam around the town. How important do you think that is?
I think it is very, very important. For me, it was a home run because I knew not only most of the people in the town back in the day, but either their relatives or something, just like you and I were talking, coming in here, knowing your relatives and the people around. So when Roger Terry came on the scene, people felt comfortable that he's going to take care of me the way he would do the rest of his family or some other people in town. I do realize in these days and times that police officers come from all over. Right. So I have met quite a few of them that are very good. They live in different communities around. If they're trained properly and do what they're supposed to do, they should be able to interact with anybody. I tell you where the problem comes in. It comes in when you have officers that have never interacted with all different types of people. In Montclair, we have a very, very diverse community, okay? Right. But there are officers that come from like West Jersey or somewhere, there's no diversity at all. Now, that's hard to believe in this day and time that it's like that, but it is. So as an administrator, and administrators on the police department have to make sure that they train these individuals to be able to deal with any type of situation and any type of people. Right. Learn about the diversity, and that's very, very important, and can bring down the temperature of some of the issues that you see,
Right.
That is dope. And you were council city mayor at one point. Can you explain that a little bit to the listeners?
Well, you know what? After 35 years with the police department, I was looking for something different to do in the community. And some people had talked to me about running for council. And I hadn't been that much of a political individual with the police department until I became an administrator. When you become an administrator and you have to listen to what the politicians, at least help you to do. You have to work together with them. And it's sometimes it's a difficult task, because if they don't know what you're supposed to do or what you do, and they haven't learned what they need to learn about law enforcement, it can make it very, very difficult. So some people suggested that maybe I should run for town council, and I did so and was fortunate to become the deputy mayor in the community. And now you look at the police department and the fire department and all the different other entities in town from a different, view. Once that you're administrator here, but now you're in charge of all these other entities. You have to figure out in a pie chart how they work together for the best of the township of Montclair. So it was a lot to learn there. I met some great people. I'm still involved, in some of the politics in Essex County, and it helps. And I think that we all should be involved. You should learn a little bit more about it. You guys, it's important to make sure that everybody is registered to vote. That's important. It's important to figure out exactly what you're voting for and why it is important to vote for these individuals. And then it's important to hold their feet to the fire too. So they're just not up there talking, but they're doing what the community wants them to do.
Mm-hmm. Do you think it's more important to pay attention to your local government over the federal government at all?
No doubt. Local government is where problems are solved for us here, okay? Yes, the federal government, we see a lot about that on TV, the different shows and what's going on there. But all of the issues that you deal with, police issues, fire issues, garbage pickup, trees trimmed, sewer, water line run, all of those are dealt with the local administration, your local politicians in your community. And then once you learn that, then you step to the next level, the county, the state, and the federal level there. They all should work together, but unfortunately, what we see now, we're in some very, very troubling times. When anybody or any group of any individuals can either twist the story, lie about the story, or not give the proper information out to the people, that's a tough time. That's another problem for all of us to solve somehow or another.
Right, definitely. I totally agree with you. Totally agree with you on that. You have two major parties, Democrats and Republicans, and we actually talking before how you watch a Democratic podcast. Do you think that people kind of get too caught up in the two political parties and forget that we're all one nation and that we have these two different sides and kind of two different ideologies, I guess, and a lot of people are kind of distancing themselves from one another. Do you think that's a problem, or do you think that's something that is just here now, or has always been here?
That's another very, very good question. The strength of America, the United States of America, has always been in its diversity. And if you take a look at the Olympics, you take a look at any interaction that we do as a country, on the bad side, war,
Right.
Had it not been for the diversity in our troops, we would have never won many of the war. You already know the story about the Tuskegee Airmen. Had it not been for them bringing those bombers into Germany like that and assisting them, we would never won the war. Whether it was a civil war, some of the slaves that were released that came to the North to assist them, in that victory, even though it was brother on brother, it's very bloody, two different stances. But once again, that if you take a look at the side that has the most diversity, that it always is important. Now, as far as the Democrats and Republicans, it's a shame. It's got to be very difficult for young people like yourself taking a look at these grown adults, many of them in their 70s, almost 80 years old, that they don't act accountable for the people in their community, the people in their state. It's just unacceptable. And off and on, Gary, has it been like that? Yeah, it probably has. There's been over the years some very, very hot discussions between the two parties, but it's worse now than it's ever been. And unfortunately, we need to work together to try to mend that wound. And it's something you said to me the other day, man. We talked a little bit about red states and the blue state, and I thought about that later, because I get caught up myself, because I'm affiliated with one party, and I get a little angry about not them and not at least trying to work together with me, but we do have to reach out a little bit more, no matter what the circumstance. Cool the temperature down, keep it calm, and let's put something on the table where we can all work together for the betterment of America. America's always better when we work together, when we work together with the world. That's another thing. How about that? The different countries around the world.
Yeah.
You see that's coming back now again. Our allies, it is very, very important. So, to mend that wound and try to figure out a way that we work together, to me, is important.
Definitely. And to let the listeners know what our conversation was, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it was you wouldn't let your kid go to a college in like a red state, like a down south state like Alabama or something like that. And a lot of you shaking your head. Well, how do you feel about that?
Nope. Because it wouldn't sit right with me. Because it's always that worry that's on your mind. Even nowadays, like it's 2021 and we still being targeted just by walking down the street. Imagine down south.
Yeah.
Like that happens around here, but imagine down south Alabama, Mississippi. I wouldn't even if he was to go to school, if he or she was to go down school down south, they can't leave campus. I would just feel a whole lot better.
Isn't that something? That's a shame.
And that's sad I have to say that. It's really sad I have to say that, but I would just feel way better with myself if they just didn't leave campus because like it's not safe. Like just the hatred that people have for another human being for no absolute reason just because of their skin color is crazy.
That's exactly right. And when you take a look, even like some of these states where they have some of the best teams in America, but as you indicated, you step off campus,
right? It's a whole different ballgame.
And go into some of these communities, it's a whole different ballgame.
Right.
And one of the other things that I hope we get an opportunity to talk about, I'm not a big proponent on guns at all, and some of these states that have loosened the laws now,
Texas.
that you could carry guns around, and everybody can have a gun if you want. All that they are doing is setting the people up for disaster.
Right.
And that's just my philosophy. We could argue. I know there are a lot of people that even some of my colleagues would come and say, "Oh, Raj, it's not the guns, it's the people." Well, if it's the people that can't handle the guns, why are you giving them guns?
Right.
That just doesn't make any
It's
sense.
just making it more easier.
Human beings are very, very violent, a violent creature, as it is anyway. They're apt to snap off. They're apt to destroy some of their family members. I've seen it on many situations. I've seen domestic violence situations. Many of them pick the weapon, a gun, as an easy way out. Suicide, in those situations like that. In my tenure in the police department, we had 5 guys kill themselves, and one of them killed himself and killed his wife too. Wow. And I work with these individuals. So, to me, absolutely, we tried in the community policing days back in '96. We put some legislation together that at least that you can put a chip on a gun. So perhaps if you buy a gun, get a chip put on it so only Gary Robertson Jr. can fire that gun. No one else can fire it.
Wow.
They would not even go for that. So here we are, almost 20 years later or so, and look at the danger that we're in. It's even worse than ever before. Yes. And they kind of propped it up during the pandemic by saying, oh, the cops are going to be defunded, so now you got to take care of yourself. Well, that's all. That's garbage that they're throwing out there to make you think, to be afraid, of everything and everybody out there, And it's just a very small percentage of individuals that you really need to be afraid about. And let the police handle them. That's what the police do. But the police can't handle them if there's so many guns out there. They're going to say, like, hey, what am I going to do?
Right.
Put myself in a difficult position. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, that definitely puts, if you make it easier to get guns, like being a cop is already a stressful job, right? So just to have that on the back of your mind, if you do a traffic stop, it's like, it's just so easy for them to get a gun. It's like now you're raising the tension for that traffic stop. Like you're just making everything worse. Like it's like they went out their way to make situations worse or like not as good as it had to be. Like,
Thank you.
I don't think it's a good idea at all.
And then plus, just think about that now. Now you're stopped, the cop's pulling you over. Now you got a gun in the glove compartment. Now you're thinking like, Christ, man. Now should I tell them that it's in there,
Right.
or you got to be nervous yourself because a lot of these officers I've seen in some of these situations are scared. They're scared out of their mind, and some of them rightly so. But some of them are too afraid, and I've never seen that before also. Most of the cops back in the day, they were pretty, they didn't have to go up against some of what's going on now. So that's just my opinion. I know some people will argue about that, but I do see a lot of fear in a lot of the officers making stops today. And part of it is that whole gun thing, that everybody's traveling around with guns.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. Especially like everybody travel around with guns. Now you have cell phones, and they're thinking like, let me try not to make a mistake, and it makes you tight and tense when you're
That's
playing.
exactly right.
Just like in sports, like when you're playing with fear, you don't play as well. It's the same thing in anything. When everybody's looking at you, especially nowadays in this climate. Everybody's looking at you like, let's see if he's going to do something wrong. The smallest mistake you make, you'll be held accountable for. You most likely lose your job. You mentioned before these are people. They make mistakes, and
Human beings do. That's right.
they make mistakes. But at the same time, see how you guys feel about this. There are some jobs where you make mistakes and you're held more accountable than other. And police officers definitely a job where you are held to a higher standard than other jobs. I know football players, basketball players, they make way more money than a lot of police officers, but they don't have guns. They don't have handcuffs.
Whoa.
So obviously you're not supposed to really kill anyone, but I'm saying like they're supposed to be protectors of the community. And when they see you killing people in the community, then people are getting scared and fearful. And like you said earlier, that fear that you put in people, that creates a lot of mayhem and tension.
Sure does. It definitely does. And that's something that we have to start taking the temperature down a little bit. Right now, that temperature is very, very high. And in many communities around, one other thing I want to say is before you make any decision on anything, especially in law enforcement, make sure that you have all of the facts, the totality of the circumstances, everything. Not no 30-minute piece of video, a 30-second piece of video you're seeing, not just a couple of snapshots that you see. Make sure that you do your investigation, find out exactly what took place, put all of the pieces together, and then you make a decision from that, seeing exactly what's going on. So I tell people that all the time. People call me up all the time. Oh, Raj, did you see what happened in that incident? And how come the cops did this? And how come that happened? But I told them, like, look, I'm not there. I don't know all of the pieces. And before that you make some type of decision on what you believe that happened, make sure that you check out all of the facts. That's another thing. People, they don't go with the facts today. That's another mind-blowing situation.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. People they look at something and they react right away.
Make it up in their own mind. They haven't had the facts, and we got politicians that do that. How could that be? What is that teaching our younger people?
It's just like, I don't know, like, we've all seen, videos of police brutality, but it's like the build-up for it to get to that point. Like some of the times it wasn't even on the officer. Like the pedestrian could be the aggressor at first, and then now all that buildup leads, to him getting slammed or tased or even shot. But it's like it was an unfortunate situation what happened, but it's like sometimes you just gotta look at the actual facts. Like some things people do for it's like consequences to bad decisions. Like if I get pulled over and I hit the cop in the face, what do you think's gonna happen to me?
Something bad is not gonna be good. It's gonna be something bad.
Like sometimes you have to take a step back and actually look to see why that situation happened the way it did.
Exactly. And as we talked about a little bit earlier, just do what you're told to do. And make sure that at least you stay calm.
Right.
And even if things go bad where you even bought back in, at least you have another day, to get the story straight.
Right.
And there are plenty of people around, plenty of family people you have, people you have, people in the community, different organizations like the NAACP and some of the others that you could always go to and hash out what took place. But you can't do that if you're shot, you're killed, or you're maimed from an incident. And I'll say this to you. You guys play football. Some people that I pulled over, and some people were some bad folks that they wound up resisting arrest. It takes quite a few people to bring some big folk under control. So a lot of people are looking at situations where they see 3-4 cops trying to bring somebody under control. But actually, that's a good thing. It's better than beating them up, better than, God forbid you have to tase them, because taser is right before using your firearm. So that's use of force, using taser. So, hopefully that you'd be able to bring that individual under control without any, but it's hard. It's very hard sometimes.
Definitely.
Like, you gotta really know how to conduct yourself under like heated situations, because, we've been in one before.
Yeah.
A couple summers ago, me and Gary had a little incident, but how we conducted ourselves, like the situation calmed back down because we didn't rile them back up. Like, even though the excessive force was used, but we didn't escalate the situation. We stayed calm. We answered all their questions, and we were let go. Like, that's what you got to do. Just because, they throw you into a heated situation doesn't mean you have to amp it up even more. Like, you got to know how to take a deep breath, get everything under control, and just relax. Because if you tense up, they'll tense up even more, and it's going to be a bad situation.
And if this condition or the situation you're talking about is the one that we talked about before, coming back from the mall, that situation there.
Correct.
Let me tell you, they were wrong. They were wrong as could be, and that was reported to their department. That was reported to the Essex County Prosecutor's Office. I think that one lieutenant that we talked to down the line, that they were reprimanded, down the line, because they knew that what had happened that day shouldn't have happened.
Right.
No matter if, and again, that's what happened. You see, they were scared.
Right.
Yeah.
They're looking through the car. They're not seeing for college-bound individuals in that car that play sports. All they're seeing is a silhouette of what appears to be some African Americans, in a car grouped together like that.
Right.
It's unfortunate, but that's part of what we have to deal with today. And that's why we have to be, as you indicate, a little bit better, a little bit calmer, even though that they're all scared. I'm going to be calm and show him that, there's nothing to be nervous or worried about. We don't have any weapons in the car. We don't have any contraband, anything that you need to be worried with us about.
Right. Like, it was a scary situation, but at the same time, like, I was confident because the people I had in the car, I knew like we're all like good individuals. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're all in school. We're all gonna, like, you know what I'm saying? We all got something going. Like, and how we conducted ourselves, how everybody conducted ourselves is like we answered all their questions, showed ID, insurance. Like, we calmed the situation down. It could have easily went left, like,
Sure
really
could've.
quick. Just like how fast it escalated.
That's how it goes like that. That's right.
And it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's like it's like when I can laugh about it now, but it's like I looked at Gary because I was, I was looking for the insurance card, and Gary was like, he was looking out the window and he froze. I'm like, what are you looking at?
Yeah, man.
I seen the gun. I'm like, yo, this can't be real. He was like, Gary was like, all right, just chill. Everybody chill out. Don't move. I'm like, all right. I'm like, he was like, and then like he was barking out orders, but it's like I still remained calm.
Yeah.
I didn't try to argue with him back. It's just like, all right, here's my insurance, here's my ID. You know what I'm saying? Everything, you tell me what you want me to do, I'll do it. Because like, I'm not trying to one, I'm the driver, so I'm not going to put them in danger because that's on me.
That's right. Yeah.
I'm responsible for them because they're my passengers. So anything that happened to him or anybody else, that would have been on me. So I had to remain calm.
That's a great
for everybody.
point.
Like once you're the driver, it doesn't matter if you got one passenger, 2 or 3, but like you're the operator of the vehicle. So you're responsible for everybody. Like everybody's lives is in your hands. So make sure everybody wears their seatbelt. Make sure you don't, excessively go over the speed limit. Like wherever you're going is going to be there when you get there. Like it's okay to take your time.
That's right. Right. I totally agree with you. That's some great points that you made. And I've seen it go bad where the operator of the vehicle either snapped or either just like lost it and pulled off. Now you got all these innocent people in the car. They may be even telling them like, hey man, pull over, man, what are you doing? Like, but once that situation starts, then anything can happen. And a lot of times I've seen a lot of bad stuff happen. So it's a great point.
Let's go into since it's Father's Day, let's go a little bit into the topic of fatherhood just a little bit. Now, each one teach one basically is trying to have gentlemen like you teach us, and therefore we can teach next generation and so on. And fatherhood is very important, like very, very important. I learned a lot from my father, I learned a lot from you, I learned a lot from men around me. And what lessons or traditions did your father give you that you ended up passing down?
Man, my father, as I indicated before, he's an athlete. He was a man of few words, and his rule was, in my house, and especially our generation, this is it, it goes this way, and that's that.
Yep.
He's a good teacher. He was always there for us. He didn't abandon us or anything, through the good times and bad, and there's good times and bads in our relationship, We had some good times and some bad times, and he kind of showed us that even in the bad times, you have to step up to the plate, assess the situation, make sure that, you always play the tape all the way out before you make any type of decision. And, just stay the course. Just know that you stay strong. If you get knocked down, that was one of his main things. You get knocked down, get back up, man. Dust yourself off. Get back into the game. He was a boxer, so he taught me and my brother how to box, also, and to defend ourselves. But he was one of these guys. He said, if I catch you out here, showing off your wear, uselessly, then it's gonna be me and you. Now he didn't have to chastise me too many times, but he did a couple of times, and it's a different thing getting hit by a kid than a man.
A grown man, grown man strength is totally different.
That's right.
Totally different.
And I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for that discipline. I'm grateful for that knowledge. I wish that he had talked about his father a little bit more. His father was a janitor up at Montclair State. When he came to Montclair, he came to be one of the best athletes in the region. And he actually, as a janitor, when the Montclair State tennis team and the basketball team may not have enough men, he came in and subbed for them as a janitor on the team.
Wow.
I can remember all the trophies that this guy had. He played for some of the Negro League basketball teams in the region. And he was also a starter, the first NAACP in the township of Montclair. So when you go on the website and take a look, Albert L. Terry Sr. is on that website, which is my grandfather, my father's father. So I've had like good people around, me, as I indicated before. Some people that would take even guys that my friends' fathers, back in the day, they could pull you over and say, hey man, I need to talk with you for a minute, I saw you do this, or do you need any help with that, I think that that's important, that you seek out people in your community that can help you, that can give you some knowledge, some wisdom, that will assist you along the journey. Don't be afraid to ask. because I'm sure that there's enough out there. And even your father's generation, there are a lot of fathers you see that are at the field and come to watch you guys play ball, very, very bright men, and strong men.
His father coached me.
There you go.
Right.
There,
And vice versa. My father coached. Yep.
just what I'm talking about. That point, is very, very important. So we're very fortunate that we have several generational links, that you can go back and forth on, So I'm grateful for that. I wish that the old timers had talked a little bit more. And I said to myself, and I've said it to my son, I said it to your mother and Billy and Amina, that if I get a chance to be a father, that I will make sure that I tell them everything that I could think about, that any kind of knowledge they would need to help themselves grow. And you see all of them have done very, very well.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Right.
What was one of the hardest moments or periods in your life being a father? Like you mentioned before, a lot of ups and downs.
Wow. We could go on and on about a lot of different situations, but let me tell you, I started out very difficult. I somehow lost my mind and decided to get married at 20 years old. And man, my father, he was off the hook about that, And it took many months to calm him down. Here's a guy who was like one of my best friends. Now, he come and he wouldn't think nothing of waking you up at 3 o'clock in the morning. If something was on his mind, he would sit there and have a discussion and wake you out of a dead sleep. Hey, you know what, Roger, I thought about this. You didn't think about this. So that's a very, very, very difficult time there. Another one was when Raj first went to Desert Storm.
Yep,
One of the rules in my house was, at the time, and it was a tough rule, either you're going to go to college or you're going to go into the military. And just only because I've seen so many kids, take a mediocre job like around town, and they get locked into that job, and they never get a chance to see what is outside of Essex County. Right. See the world and see how other people interact, or at least in those days where we didn't have as many wars and everything going on as we do now, I thought the military would be like a safe piece. So when Raj, he went in there, we had a good, sad moment when he left, and I know his mother was on my case. Nothing better happened to him like that, And the next thing you know, here Desert Storm started, and he's in the middle of a war, way out in a desert someplace that we know nothing about, So thank God that he made it through that. There were some tough moments, Mina going to the service, that was another one, I never saw her run before. And I'm thinking in my mind, how in the world is she going to be able to make it? But she did.
Yep.
She did. She gutted it up, did what she needed to do, and did very well. And so did Billy. So 3 out of the 4 in my house went to the military. Mina's husband, I got the old guard shirt on down there. That's where, down in Arlington, where they bury the troops and give them like ceremonies and everything like that. I've been down there. I've been all over the world with them. Been to France, I've been to Italy, I've been to Germany, to the different bases that they've had. They've learned like all the customs from all over the world. So, even though it was something bad at one point, turned into something very, very good. And they've all done very well.
Wow. So my mother was the only one
Yeah.
in the household to go to the military. Wow.
But she's like military now, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. Definitely military now. Definitely. That is dope. That is
It
dope.
is really dope. Like, what would you? Because there is, these young fathers out here that 19, 20. What pointers would you give them starting out so young as being a father?
Relationships are difficult, very, very difficult, and that's something that's gotten worse over the years. At one point, people tried to stay together to make it. Now, at the drop of a hat, people say, "I'll see. I'm getting a divorce. I'm moving on." And in many circumstances, it disrupts the family atmosphere with the children. You know, I can only imagine. And my mother and father, they had difficulties, but they still stood there. If one of them had left, it would have probably broke some of us, like, you know, and that happens a lot. So to the young people today, first of all, I would suggest that you don't get married until you're at least 30 years old. Okay.
My mom gave me the same
I
advice.
I told your mom.
My mom gave me the same.
I told her that, and first she got mad. She said, 30 years old, you're an old lady at 30 years old. But that's not true. You're an individual at 30. At least you give yourself a chance to take a look at life, hopefully to get out away from this area and take a look at lives in other places, you know, hopefully to even get overseas to see what that looks like, you know. I mean, how many people don't even get a chance to go overseas and see what Germany, see what France looks like, see what Spain, what's that like, you know? What are the people over there like, you know? Before you make a decision to settle down with somebody that you hopefully that you can get along with, and then to produce some children that will be needing you to help encourage them and help them grow. You know, that's very, very important. But for the fathers that are even having a difficult time, always hang with your kids. Even though at younger ages sometimes it looks like it's difficult, there is going to be a day when that kid comes and he wants to know what you're all about. He wants to know why you either stayed with him or you didn't stay with him. He wants to know all of the background, you know, about you. You know, you see that all the time, like people reaching out for their fathers that, you know, who they didn't know who they were throughout their life. I've seen that many times with the police department. So hopefully that's a good piece of advice that, first of all, don't produce any children too young. You know, find yourself first.
Right.
Find out what you're about, who you are, you know, and put some direction in your life, some financial direction also, some wisdom, and then hopefully that you'll find somebody that you can be compassionate with and produce some children.
Right.
Hope that makes sense.
Definitely. And also, you mentioned compassion. We had a conversation years ago. You mentioned, I forgot what it was. It was, I remember now. It was, there's 3 types of love, 3 stages of love. It was puppy love, beginning to love, and the last one, unconditional love.
That's right.
Can you explain that a little bit to the young men out there?
Okay. Well, you know, when you first, and there's some beautiful ladies. I'm trying to trim it as easy as I can, you know. But I mean, there's some wonderful, good-looking women out there. You can get captured up in the moment,
Right.
and actually, for life, that's a good thing, you know. But make sure whatever happens, you know, with that like puppy love you're talking about, because that's all it is right now. You may think like, oh, wow, look, I want to marry this lady. Look how beautiful she is, you know. Things are going good for us, you know. Our relationship is tight, you know, physical part is tight, all of that like that. But you really don't know who that human being is, you know. Take time, give yourself time to know who it is. Unconditional love is when you love somebody no matter what the circumstance is. And usually it takes, just from my experience, it takes years to really figure out how all of that works. That's why I say, give yourself some time, you know. I know a lot of people might think 30 is like old like that, but at least somewhere near that. So you get out, you experience certain circumstances. You may have some friends, some female friends that you're interacting with. Find out what they're about, you know. Take a look at their life. Take a look at their background. What type of family situation did they come from? That's a whole nother story. We could talk about that for hours also, where a lot of people come from broken circumstances, and they'll bring that right into your relationship also.
Right.
Then you're jammed up in the circumstances you're not even responsible for, but you're hooked up into it like that. And then you bring a child into that circumstance, it's very, very difficult.
Yep.
That's why, unfortunately, you see that the divorce rate is so high. You know, around. People aren't willing to stay the course or work together through some things.
And just to close up, as we have a few minutes left, what is some advice you would give to young men out there?
Advice?
Yeah.
Find out who you are first. Stay the course. Hang with the winners. You know the group of people who are the winners, and you know the group of people who are the losers, you know. And maybe that's too strong to put it, you know. There are some people that like to play on the edge, and I'm sure that you know some folks like that, you know. Listen, we're impulsive type of people, you know, especially you play sports, you know, you feel sometime like Superman, I can do anything. But believe me, you go with the wrong type of people, or you get yourself in a bad circumstance, or you get in a car with somebody who's not doing the things that they need to be doing, it could cause you a lifetime of trouble. Play every circumstance out. Take a look at the tape. They always talk about play the tape all the way. If I get in the car and I know he's got some drugs in here, or he's got a gun in there or something like that, what could happen? You know, the guys maybe say, come on, man, you just need to take a ride with me. We're going around the corner, or I'll give you a lift to this. But if you get stopped, just play the tape all the way out. What could happen in some of these circumstances, you know? Am I going to be harmed? Is he going to harm somebody, or somebody going to harm him? Find out who you are before you do anything. And if you can't, ask for help. There is nothing wrong with asking for help. If you can't get it from your father, if you can't get it from your mother, if you can't get it from your uncle, your grandparents, find somebody you trust in the community that you could sit down and talk to, you know, and talk about some of that gut level stuff. Not the stuff that's right up here, but some of that deep down stuff that, you know, that you only know about, you know. It is very, very important to have those discussions. Thank God that I had some parents in my life that taught me how that works like that, you know. And sometimes you're a little nervous about, you know, talking about your gut level stuff. You know, that's not easy to do. But once that you do, and you have the right person, it'll help you down the trail. So hopefully for the young fathers today that they're doing that, we need you. You know, I'm to a level right now where I got to count on his parents and him, and, you know, and they are a big help. Thank God, you know, as time goes on. But that's how it goes. That's how the tree is full and how we move everything on.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. You gave us a lot of knowledge. I really thank you. Thank you so much.
Hey, no problem. It's quite an honor, as I indicated, that, you know, to come with you two guys, to watch you play sports. I watch how you interacted with the community. I know your families. You guys are doing a great job. Thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you for everything. Thank you. Well, that is another episode of Each One Teach One podcast. I'm Gary Robinson Jr.
Elijah Coates.
And we had our guest, Roger Terry, today, my grandfather. And we thank you guys so much. Another episode coming soon. Thank you.